All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. We're going to be doing a flip and spin outlook on the whiteboard today. This is a tournament that's going to be taking place over the next 2 weeks. You have the quarterfinals happening on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And then the finals are going to be a LAN in Paris on October 25th. That's a Friday. So decent amount of high-level Rocket League to look forward to. It's going to be our first look at some of the super teams formed in Europe, as well as a couple of interesting mix-up teams. I don't want to call them mix-up scrims because they're no longer scrims, but a couple of indications for where pieces might land during the offseason. Now, this event started with 4 teams getting invited. This was announced in the middle of the Shift Summer League, so a lot of people thought the 4 teams invited were going to be the 4 French super teams with Karmine Corp, Vitality, BDS, and Gentlemates. BDS doesn't have a team right now, so they declined an invite. Gentlemates didn't get invited. I think they probably just declined it behind the scenes as well. It would shock me if they didn't get an invite at all. But because of that, we only have 2 of the French super teams. You have Vitality and Karmine Corp. The third invited team, which is the only other invited team, is Dignitas, who is Stizzy, ApparentlyJack and Chronic. So it's kind of a North American team. This Dignitas organization and roster will be based in North America next year based on all reports that we've seen so far. And the 4th invited spot has now gone to teams that came from the open qualifier. There was an open qualifier 4 different times. 2 teams qualified out of each of those. And then the 8 teams played in a closed qualifier, 4 of them advancing, 4 of them staying home. Now the 4 that had to stay home have one last chance to qualify for this tournament in the last chance qualifier. That will be taking place on Monday. This video is going out on Monday, so it'll be starting in, I think, just about 2 hours if everything I've seen on Wikipedia is correct. So be sure to keep an eye on that. For the last chance qualifier, here are the 4 teams that are still in it. You have 200%, which is Acro, Catalysm, and Luis P. These guys went through in the second open qualifier. So considering that all the teams that once they qualify through the open qualifier, they stopped playing in them, like the open qualifier 4 was definitely the easiest to get through in. These guys getting through in the second probably says something about how good their team is in comparison to the rest. Fast forward, I believe, went through in the third open qualifier. This is Edgeby, Compact, Smokes. And then you have Wesh, who went through in open qualifier 4. That's Cash, Extra, and Matzer. And Encore with Mozzarella, K-Dop, and Astral. So those are the 4 teams competing for the last chance qualifier spots. They will be in a completely double elimination bracket, I believe. I'm blanking on what the first round matches are. Unfortunately, I did not have that written down. But yeah, starting in 2 hours if you're watching this right when it comes out. If you've caught this video within the first 2 hours, go watch it. Should be fun. As for the rest of the tournament, these are the quarterfinal matches that we have. I have all the teams listed out on this right side here. I might be leaning out of the frame. I just realized that. I apologize. I'm here. Don't worry. Vitality is running Monkey Moon Exotic Zen. Karmine Corp is running Vatira, Tau, and Drali. Those are definitely the 2 favorites for this tournament, and if they don't meet in the finals, everyone's going to be shocked. But some of the other rosters, Super Ole and Service, I've put all the quarterfinal matches, like all the teams matched up here based on their quarterfinal matches, so you will see Vitality versus the LCQ team. You'll see Super Ole versus Service. I have it all written down here, but yeah, just to not be surprised on that front. So this is the interesting match because both of these teams came from the open qualifier. They were, I'm guessing, like no open qualifier teams necessarily expected to make it to this land, considering there were going to be 4 invited teams and they were probably going to be the 4 French teams. So this is definitely a unique opportunity for those 2 teams to get to play in Paris on land. Karmine Corp facing Amai, which is Atomic and Tox. That duo is sticking together for this tournament. And they have Tekos from SA. He was a prospect that seemed to be doing pretty well last season, has a lot of potential. And then your last matchup in the quarterfinals is Dignitas versus Batata. This Dignitas roster, as I mentioned earlier, Stizzy, AppJack, and Chronic, kind of bringing in that North American viewership. And then Batata is Econ, Chaussette, and Wristfox. These are your quarterfinals. Don't ask me which is on which day. I'm assuming these 2 are on Tuesday and these 2 are on Wednesday. But I'm going to go through, kind of just do predictions, what could end up happening in this event. And yeah, so with this Vitality LCQ, if anyone but Vitality wins this, it's a massive upset. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in as Vitality. In terms of who they'll be facing, it's Super Ole or Service. I personally like this Super Ole roster a lot more. You have the core of M80 with Jorias and Nas, and maybe I just didn't think about that hard enough considering it's a quarterfinal match with a core of M80. But I do think they're a stronger roster. NAS is currently getting shouts for a lot of good tryouts in North America, including he is currently the one being looked at for the LJ First Killer spot. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. And Oli, I also think Oli's pretty underrated. I think he's a solid player that could fit in well with this duo. And then Service. Service does have players who have been on land before. Nas has been to EWC. Jorius has been to plenty of lands with Dignitas. Oli made a couple last year. This Service roster, you have Ivan and Rizex. I believe they were both on that Evil Geniuses roster that qualified for the Winter Major in 2022. They made top 8 at that major. Raziers had a solid performance in Gamers 8 in the first iteration, if I'm remembering correctly. There was a lot of hype coming around him when he was first on the come up. But that being said, neither of these, this match isn't going to be played on LAN. But I do favor Super LA. We could see Service. But as for Karmine Corp and Amai, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I think everyone does favor Karmine Corp. But I'm also going to talk about this one first with Dignitas versus Batata. Dignitas, I think, should win this game. If they don't, it's a bit embarrassing. I'm going to be honest. Batata's a squad that's kind of a bubble team in Europe. And this Dignitas is still the core of a team that got second in North America. I know they don't have First Killer anymore. I know Stizzy does not have the same level of pedigree as First Killer does. But that being said, Dignitas should be winning this at a bare minimum. If they don't expect this roster to stick together. I think at a bare minimum, you have to win this. But the reason I highlight Dignitas here first is because if for some odd reason, now I really don't think this is going to happen, but if for some odd reason we do see an upset and Amai wins, we'd have Dignitas versus Amai, which is Atomic and Tox versus their old teammate in Stizzy. So, low-key, I would love to see this. This was one of the things I was looking at heading into the tournament. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if Stizzy got to face off against his old team? Because I think that's a much more even matchup. Like, I don't think it's embarrassing if Dignitas loses to Amai. I think it's not great, but I don't think it's the same level as losing to Batata. No offense, Batata. I'm sorry, I'm being a little harsh. But I would love to see this matchup. And we're one upset away from it happening. It doesn't have to happen in the finals. They are on the same side of the bracket. That being said, no one in their right mind is going to predict that. So let's get them out of here. Replace them with K-Corp. K-Corp's going to win that. And then we get to see Dignitas versus K-Corp. And I think this will be very telling. I don't think Dignitas is going to win this. I hope they make it respectable. If they do win it, then North America is going to be insufferable, which will be great. I'm going to love that. But I think a lot of people are expecting this final to happen. Vitality versus K-Corp. Like, they're on opposite sides of the bracket. If this isn't the final, everyone's going to be shocked. It's going to be our first good look at what is, the future of European RLEsports. There's no BDS. Gentlemates, we don't know what they're doing, but they're going to get slept on just like they were at the start of last season. So that's kind of what we're looking at for Flip and Spin. I'm going to be trying to be in the comments answering questions. But yeah, these are your teams. Pretty straightforward and not much room to expect the upset. I don't think there were many upsets at last year's Flip and Spin. I think your semifinalists were Karmine Corp, Moist, Vitality, and BDS. And then I believe Vitality and Karmine Corp met in the finals, with Karmine Corp being the new iteration of Rise. They didn't have a Tau at that point. They had Nolly. It was Vatira, Rise, and Nolly who ended up taking down Vitality, which was the championship winning Vitality roster. So, but yeah, that's Flip and Spin. First 2 quarterfinals are on Tuesday. Next 2 are on Wednesday. This last chance qualifier is happening very, very soon if you're watching it when it comes out. And then October 25th, it's the finals. LAN in Paris. Should be super hype. So thanks for watching. Tomorrow I'm planning on doing a North American outlook where I do those magnets. I have a bunch of logos printed out that I'm going to put on top of the board and then move all the players around the board. So it should be a lot of fun. It's like what I do for the France offseason, and I'm sure it's going to become outdated within 3 days. So that being said, it'll be a lot of fun. Catch you guys next time.